Well, actually, right now I am rereading a book that I typically read every single year, which is G.K. Chesterton's Orthodoxy. I've been reading it every year for probably about 15 years, usually in January. It's sort of Chesterton's masterwork. It's got all of his paradox and his incredible writing. It was intended to be an apologetic for Christianity. It was really and truly was the inspiration and the basis from which C.S. Lewis was working when he wrote Mere Christianity. And I really find it to be inspirational, both in terms of its writing, and I always find new insights in it. It's one of those books that if I were to actually highlight every single line that hits me, over the years I would have highlighted the entire book. So I'm reading that right now, and I'm going to be actually teaching this over the next couple of weeks to my new college students. But at the same time that I'm reading that, I'm also, quite paradoxically, reading The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin, which I've actually only read once before, and it was a long time ago, and I'd forgotten how little science was actually in it. How much of it is just a bunch of philosophical assumptions based on observations that scientists will often make, isolated observations, but without the history of science and without the scientific method, which requires a repetition of all phenomena, it winds up being sort of an island of intellectual hubris. It also defanged the mythology of Darwinism for me to reread it because, quite frankly, it's so philosophically lame and it makes so many bad assumptions. And to top it all off, to be reading this while I'm reading G.K. Chesterton's Orthodoxy is really kind of a remarkable contrast. It's almost as if Chesterton intended for people to read Darwin at the same time they're reading this, just so that they can see the great contrast between Christianity and all of its alternatives, including the modern secularist alternative. So it's been really great fun to read the two of them together. Interestingly, I've also been writing a small piece for the Omnibus textbook that Veritas Press publishes on the Quran. And what has been striking to me is how Chesterton's critique of secularism can equally apply to Islam, and how close, philosophically, Islam is to modern secularism as portrayed in Darwin's Origin. It just really kind of goes back to that underlying principle I think we always need to keep in mind, and that is the devil has no stories. He has to borrow everything that he knows and does from the truth, and he dilutes it and manipulates it and distorts it, but in the end, there's nothing original in anything that the devil does, whether it's secular humanism or some new arising cult or some rival to Christianity like Islam. In the end, it's all diminution of the one thing, and so I'm learning a lot from that. For fun, though, what I'm reading right now is Nate Wilson's third volume of his 100 Cupboards book series. It's called The Chestnut King, and it is loads of fun. It's, I think, supposed to be written for adolescents, but no adolescent is going to pick up on all of the Wizard of Oz and the remarkable Hamlet kind of parallels and all of the rest. It's I had to go hunting for it in the children's section of the local bookstore. This is phenomenal stuff and beautiful writing. I've reread the first half of this twice because I've got a book group and we're going to be talking about it on the next couple of days. My friend and co-pastor here, Bing Davis, has already read all the way through it, and he says, I'm going to be surprised by the ending, but then I was surprised by the endings of the first two books in the series. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes. Hundred Cupboards and Dandelion Fire are the first two books in the series, and The Chestnut King is the latest, so that's what I'm doing for fun.